The Bear returns this Thursday, and there are still some major questions hanging over the series. Will Carmy finally figure out what he wants? What happens next for Richie? And could one relationship change everything? Today we're counting down the 5 biggest unanswered questions heading into Season 5. If you love The Bear, hit subscribe and join us for more reviews, theories, and breakdowns throughout the season. But first, let's start with the question we're most worried about.
We're going to start with the most obvious one. And if you've seen the bonus episode Gary, you know how it ends with Richie's accident.
Yeah, and so I think the most obvious big unanswered question is, what happens to Richie and when does this happen?
Yeah, the when does it happen, I think, is the most interesting part to me, especially after seeing the trailer, because it sounds like he's there throughout the whole day.
Yeah, and he seems in good spirits for the most part, so it seems as though it doesn't happen at the beginning of the day, but you can tell at the end of Gary it's heavy rain, and we know from the trailer that this season is in a storm, and there's a lot of rain that's going to be happening. We already know Season 5 takes place in one day, so does this happen mid-shift? They ran out for napkins, or he ran out to go buy something to do, one of his special dinners that he loves to do, those surprises for people? Or does this happen at the end of the night after that final service?
I think it happened at the end of the night. And there's a moment where he's looking at the seat next to him after he had a whole episode with Michael. And he looks at the seat next to him and just has a sad look, like, why is it empty? And just knowing Richie's character arc, it feels like he achieved something great and is sad that his best friend's not there.
Yeah, I could also see a world where this is a, kind of red herring or a misdirection, where it happens midday maybe and it's not as serious as it looks.
Yeah.
It definitely looks like he gets, T-boned pretty hard.
Yeah.
But that could be a misdirection because they did release this so early, right? But there is the chance that, Richie could die.
Yeah, that would be so sad. He's one of my favorite character arcs. Like, the first episode, I remember almost being annoyed that he was on screen because he was just so loud and boisterous and aggressive. And now he's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, and his whole arc was kind of trying to find this greater purpose and, to feel successful when obviously he's surrounded by people like Carmy, Michelin star chef, and trying to kind of find his thing to be great at. And he did. It was in the service industry and in, seating people and giving them that experience because he is that lively guy and doing it his way. He likes to crack those jokes with them and added some of his personality to it. That those are kind of the journeys that can end where they die, right? Where they finally achieve that goal of finding their purpose and their life gets cut short. It's a tragic thing, but it is, kind of real too. I don't know if the Bear would do that. That would be really sad.
Yeah, but I remember even watching the wedding episode of season 4, and he was having all those touching moments with Carmy, with his ex-wife, with Sydney, and I looked at you and I was like, is he gonna die? Like, it felt like he was wrapping up.
It definitely felt like he was saying his, last parting touching words
Yeah.
that they'll all remember years later. It did give kind of that vibe. I just can't help but hope that, he's going to be a partner in the Bear and has that ownership too. And you even saw in that final episode of season 4 where he felt like, don't just do it as a gesture, don't pity me or anything like that. And to get that respect from Sydney, who he respects as well, that she's like, it's not a gesture.
Yeah.
You earned it. That is such a full circle moment for him. That it would be so sad. I just can't help but want the best for him.
We have to talk about the restaurant that started it all. It was the topic or the big question for at least the last 2 seasons, and it's what happens to the Bear.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously, the countdown hit 0 at the end of the last season, so their, parachute is gone. They don't have really any more time. We see each character kind of trying to work towards something. They've been working towards the Michelin star. Ibrahim's been kind of working on that franchise idea for the beef. And this season's really going to be what is going to get them out of that hole, if anything.
Yeah, and I think the trailer was very much showing us that they were underwater. Like, they were at the end of the road with the restaurant. So the big question is, do they end up actually closing? Was this just a moment in time where they all grew, or is it going to be here for the long run?
And it's been a theme through all the seasons. You know, they've always made it very clear restaurants close down, even great chefs. We watched it happen. And it kind of seemed as though this could just be another one, a moment in time. They even said it when one of the restaurants closed. They're like, pieces of this restaurant will go to new restaurants and be a part of that.
Yeah.
And it'll carry on in the chefs that worked there. So is that what will happen to the bear itself?
And not to mention the Michelin star. I think that's been a big goal of Carmy and Sydney over the past at least 2 seasons. And they've been dealing with reviewers coming in, or like the threat of a reviewer coming in. So I'd be really curious to see if they achieve it.
And it would be interesting because there was a moment in season 4 when they had the family that wanted to see snow. There was a guest eating at the restaurant that, they focused on a lot. The camera would kind of show him watching how they were treating the other people dining. And was that a Michelin star judge? Because I don't think he was from the Food and Wine, because they didn't show him trying the dessert or anything about Marcus for it to be for that. It definitely seemed as though he was charmed by the service aspect of it.
And the restaurant itself. So maybe that was a red herring.
Or maybe that was the Michelin star judge.
Yeah.
And maybe they already earned it and they just don't know it yet.
And I know the shipper wants to talk about the love life of Carmy and the relationship with Claire.
Yeah, I definitely think they left Claire kind of on, they mended fences, and it seemed very open-ended at the end of season 4. It's seemed the whole way through as though she's his potential happy ending. Like, they're looking at it as though, to end up with Claire is to end up happy and peaceful.
But I would argue that it seems like everyone else is happier that he's with Claire than he is, because he seems almost very tormented whenever he deals with her. And I know we've had a number of scenes where they're very romantic and they're cuddling up and they're having these conversations about their history, but it ultimately leads to a lot of emotions where he doesn't feel good enough for her.
Yeah, and I think it could be a situation where he thinks he needs to leave the restaurant to find peace. He thinks Claire is that end goal. And then maybe he realizes, maybe there's a flash forward or something, and he realizes down the line that that's not what he needed at all, that he does thrive in the chaos, or he does like it, and it was more about letting go of the guilt and the hurt over what happened and the loss of Mikey, versus having to find this relationship.
And we have to talk about Sydney. She's been one of the mains, the sous chef of the restaurant. What happens to her?
Yeah, and I think where it seems like in season 4, Carmy kind of, mended fences with his mom, with Richie, even had a cute moment with Sugar. Him and Sydney, he kind of disappointed her and kind of left her. Yeah. She was left really upset. And so I think this season's going to be interesting because she has always been calm, collected, kind of in the chaos. She was always that voice of reason. And now she's the one that's upset.
Yeah. And when they were outside talking, it started out a conversation between her and Carmy, and it completely flipped to a conversation between her and Richie. So she's already had an incredible offer from another restaurant. I'm curious to see if she will stick around. Like, I know the bear means a lot to her and the people mean a lot to her, but I think she's starting to realize that she can do more.
Yeah, and I think it must be hard for her to see the person, her partner, and the person she was trying to do it with, whereas she made the choice the episode prior to choose the bear, he's not. Yeah. And so I definitely feel there's that bit of disappointment. She said she knows she can do it on her own, but I'm sure she still feels, some anxiety. She had said at the wedding she fears failure. So doing it without, this backing of a Michelin star chef in Carmy probably feels scary and a lot more on her shoulders. I hope we get to see her thriving in this season 5 and really taking control and showing that leadership and that partnership with Richie
Yeah.
and Sugar, because I think they make a really good team, and we've seen her develop those relationships with them throughout all the seasons.
Yeah. And if there is a little bit of a flash forward, I do hope that we see her running her own restaurant with her own Michelin stars, where she gets to put her own influence, because that's been a big power dynamic between her and Carmy throughout the whole series, was that he always got to decide what went on the menu, and she, even though she would make some great suggestions, it would always take him a little while to come through.
Yeah, and I think that is a big question for Sydney and Carmy together as well. I know a lot of people ship them. I could go either way. I definitely do see it between them, but I could also just see them having that mentor-mentee relationship. But I do think it would be really interesting to see, do they lose touch? And was the bear just this meeting point between two brilliant minds in cooking? And will we maybe see in a flash forward he goes and eats at her restaurant, but maybe they don't necessarily talk anymore?
Oh, that would be sad.
Yeah, it would be.
Season 4 ended with Carmy deciding to step away from the bear. He actually removed himself from the partnership and is going to leave the restaurant in the hands of Sugar, Richie, and Sydney.
Yeah, and he even tells Richie that he's retiring, and Richie says, "You're too young for that."
Yeah.
So will he actually retire and step away from cooking? I mean, I think it's very clear to see there was a lot of burnout and a lot of trauma from being a chef and from the way he was treated as he was, learning. And does he just need to step away for a little while to get some distance, decompress, definitely deal with a lot of his grief and whatnot, and then can he come back in and feel inspired? Because we saw him all season struggling to perfect the lamb dish and not having, he says it himself, he has nothing to draw on. He's not inspired to cook, and if you're not inspired to create, he is an artist, and maybe he just needs distance.
Yeah, we did see him mend that relationship with his mom too at the end. So I wonder if part of him thought the next right step is to step away from the second most chaotic thing in my life. And it sounds like, or it looks like from the trailer, that he's going to be very much involved and try to get them back above water with the whole flooding and everything that we saw in the trailer. So I wonder if at the end of it, he'll realize that he is meant to be there. And I hope it's not because Richie dies and he realizes that they need him to move on.
Yeah, he does tell her, Sydney, as well, that he thinks that he's the problem and so he needs to remove himself. He does say that. And so I wonder if helping to save the restaurant will show him that maybe he was the problem, changing the menu every day or not giving, as much mentorship or positive feedback as he could. But maybe it'll show him that he doesn't have to completely leave to just change some of those habits to enjoy what he's doing and to have other people enjoy his presence in the kitchen more.
Yeah, because a lot of this season was him comparing himself to his old mentor and how bad he felt working with him. And I think near the end of the last season, we saw him starting to give a little bit more praise to Sydney. And even some of those silent nods when she beat the 3-minute clock, seeing Marcus get recognized in that way, he was genuinely happy for him. And I don't know that his old mentor would have given him that same praise.
Yeah, and it's probably a sign that he's been going through those stages of grief and is coming out on the other side, that now he's looking around and actually seeing, Tina and saying, what can I do for you and how can I help you? And okay, Marcus, you need extra hands, let me get them. That he's able to kind of pick his head up and look around now is a sign of how far he's grown, because he was very stuck in his head early on and reliving those traumas and torturing himself in a way. So I hope it ends with him refinding that love for this art, because he is such an amazing cook, and I think it would be great for him to be able to continue that gift and share it.
Yeah, and maybe he's just not part of the leadership, the partnership, but he's their head chef.
Yeah, the creative.
Yeah.
Those are our 5 biggest unanswered questions heading into The Bear Season 5. What happens to Carmy's love life? What's next for Sydney? Can the restaurant actually survive? And after everything we've seen, what is Richie's fate? Now we want to hear from you. Which of these questions do you think Season 5 will answer first? And what are your predictions? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us after the season drops for reviews, theories, and breakdowns of every major moment from The Bear. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you soon. Bye.